Welcome back, guys. My name is Harrison. I'll be casting this best of 5 series today between Kickass and Fard. Kickass is going to spawn on the top right of the map in the colour teal, with his opponent playing, well, in the colour blue, spawning in the bottom left. Both of these players are playing as the British civilization on a coin start, so we're going to see a Brit mirror for game number 1 between Fard and Kickass. This is the opening game of the rounds of 32 in the intermediate division bracket for the ESOC Winter 2020 tournament, and so both these players have managed to pass through their first opponents, I believe, and make their way into the round of 32 from the qualifiers. Maybe one of these guys did drop down from the advanced division. However, we'll have to check at a later stage just to confirm that. Maybe I'll confirm that over the next break. Kickass has found himself a 90 coin treasure on the top of the map. He's sent his explorer to the northways, trying to find a few of the sheep as well, but come across a 90 coin treasure, which usually for British doesn't mean too much or bring too much of an advantage. However, when you do start off with an early market in Age 1, due to this map spawning newer markets, you can use that early market enough to buy 100 wood. Currently sat on 140 coin, Kickass, and he's already got his hunting dog, so you could just buy 100 wood and end up with 125, and would only need 10 more wood. That's 10 more wood to chop to build down a second manor house and get another settler working his economy early on in this game. Fard has come across 100 coin treasure, and it seems like it's a property of the map, but this spot always near the sometimes the native TP does spawn here, but quite often there's always 100 coin or 100 wood food treasure here. So maybe it's Fard has been aware of this map placement of decent treasures. However, he's scouting the back of the map. He's using his sheep to scout the back of the map, and this is a good move from Fard, because both players are the British Explorer and they both have only one scouting unit, so he feels quite safe to scout the back end of his map with both this sheep here and this sheep without feeling too worried that he's going to actually lose them to an Explorer. However, Kickass Explorer is away from the sheep at the bottom, but has picked himself 100 XP treasure. That won't affect his shipment time of the first shipment coming in, which would be the 3 settlers for both players, I would assume so. We will just check as the shipments come to roll in. However, both explorers are nearby on the map, and they may come across his 75 wood treasure at the same time. I believe Kickass just scouted it with his explorer. He's in range of it cropping up, so he will be aware that there's for 2 alligators he can take on 75 wood. He'll just need a crack shot, and he can easily take off the 1 alligator very quickly without having to do too much micro there. But he has previously scouted this area, indicated by him moving his waypoint towards his treasure, and you can see 1 stray dog is being rescued by the British Explorer here of Fard. His treasure contention looks like Fard actually is going to get down a little bit before Kickass, and I can't see it. Kickass has stolen it. Kickass has stolen Tio Julio, the Spanish war dog, and is snared the British Explorer in hand combat. The British Explorer cannot run away from both the other British Explorer, but oh no, the dog has pathed in front of the Explorer and has actually unsnared himself, but because Fard stopped moving with his Explorer, managed to get the snare on back again, and the little dog's going to pick up a tasty 45 experience for Kickass while preserving his Explorer's life and being able to push out and get a few more treasures. He did see a 75 wood treasure earlier. It looks like he's pathing towards it now with his waypoint, and so 75 wood on early for Kickass would surely help his mana boom production as he looks to advance into the second age here. Looking at both the players' decks, looks like Kickass is advancing just a little bit earlier before Fard, looking for a very standard deck here with all the Cav upgrades and Musketeer upgrades in Age 2. No 4-wheel shipment or the 700 food. And in Age 3 we do have essentially the 4 standard military unit cards, the upgrades as you'd expect, refrigeration, and they chose to omit 1,000 wood for 1,000 coin. Kickass has advanced up to the colonial age before his opponent Fard has done, and Fard has advanced with 1 extra settler, I believe. He's currently on 20 builds to 18 with an extra 1 mana population, so he went for a slightly delayed age up, and aged up with possibly the 18 age up at that point. Both have gone for the governor, and due to Kickass's earlier age up, he's managed to secure the centre portion on the map. He's dropped a barracks down on the Hunt, which is in between his 3 coin mines and the Seminole trading post, but Kickass's forward block outpost would surely get a lot of map control and secure both this hunt as well as a few extra hunts of the Kickass. Kickass is probably 4th, 3rd is there, 5th is out quite wide, but both players have lots of access to safe, defensible hunts. If anything, Fard has more hunts in more defendable locations. But with Kickass's forward control, he can easily send 5 settlers to the forward outpost at a later point and make the most of gathering this nearby hunt under protection of the army and outpost without having to send villagers halfway across the map. Fard's deck is slightly different though. Looking at Fard's deck, Fard has got, instead of having schooners in his deck, he's gone for advanced docks. So he's omitted the schooner card, which does reduce the cost of boats, but also increases the train rate of boats. It's a very, very useful card to have, whether to send it in the early parts of the game or later transitioning from a late colonial. He's got the musketeer upgrades, but no cavalry upgrades in the colonial age. But it does have ships to defend the pond with all the upgrades for the boats possible there. No 2 mortar card present, however, no fishing upgrade as well. So it seems like Fard is up for defending the water, but not necessarily making the most of it with a fish boom. But that's early days. Looks like he's defending with both players are opening with musketeers. Fard is opening with a barracks in base, 10 musketeers being produced. Well, Kickass has dropped a 2nd barracks, and at this point, he's already got 15 musketeers on the field, as well as this 1 war dog. Early on in the matchup, this 1 war dog does provide a lot of damage. 18 hand attacks, nothing to scoff at, especially if it's not being focused down by the enemy units. It's near enough the same. It's about half of a Hussar's attack. Hussar usually do 30 damage, so having a hand attack of 18 is something to be respected and not to be ignored. Mirror cards have been sent for both players. Both players have gone for the 3 settlers, the 700 woods, and the 5 settler cards now. However, Fard is massing off 1 barracks, while Kickass is massing his units off 2 barracks. And unless Fard drops a 2nd production building, because he's got a lot of units in bank still, he's not actually making the full use of his bank. He's over popping. He can only train 5 at a time. He can't do a Japan and start training 10 at a time. We're looking at the units in queue. You see he's got 5 queued up, but he's still got resources in the bank to stare. Kickass does have 2 musketeers present on in training the queue from his both barracks. However, these barracks are both are going. We've got another 8 coming in. So Kickass is pushing in from the left-hand side with a musketeer mass of decent size, similar to Fard's, but 8 more musketeers are still waiting to join the foray. And Kickass's 4th shipment is the 600 wood. Will Fard spice things up and go for an early musketeer attack upgrade card? Or would he also go for the 600 wood and try and play as greedy as he can realistically possible with this army ahead? He could, with the 600 woods, chuck down a 2nd barracks as well as start a few longbow production, and so you have a 2-unit composition and get some longbows firing from the safety of the musketeer front line. $700 coins coming for Fard, and unless this is an olden style strat from Fard, the 700 coins is going to be living in a large bank. He wants him to age up to the 3rd age, but with a single barracks, he can't actually readily change his stance to more of a defensive in the colonial if he gets overpowered. So the fact that Kickass is retreating with a larger military mass is actually given Fard that opportunity to click up, and he has clicked up to the 3rd age now. So it will take a while for the British player to advance to the 3rd age. If we see his research, he's going up with the Adventurer, which will grant himself 7 longbows on age up to the Fortress age, because these 5 longbow 2 pike shipments. However, Kickass has smelt this. This is his time to push. He's sent himself the musketeer attack. Stronger attack from the musketeers, and Fard with a smaller military mass. He's currently got himself 30 units against 50 musketeers of the Kickass. Fard is going to have to do something very defensive very quickly. He's got 5 more musketeers popping in from his barracks. He's got defensive fire of TC, Minutemen support available, as well as the 7 longbows on age up, but he's only a 1/3 of the way up. Like, Fard is somehow pushing out from his base and fending off Kickass, where Kickass has the mass, and he has sent the musketeer card. Surely Kickass must have clicked on one of Fard's musketeers and seen that he has not sent an upgrade card. If you got a larger mass just by just by looking at it, really, as well as checking that you got the stat advantage from which cards has been sent. This is your time to push, and when Fard gets up to the 3rd age, the veteran musketeer will be instantly queued from the British barracks of Fard, and Fard must do his absolute best to defend that barracks at all costs. If he loses that veteran musketeer upgrade, he may quickly find himself struggling to defend in age 3 against the stronger units of Kickass with the single attack card. Shipment's just been sent from Kickass, and I imagine after sending musketeer attack and just been massing a large mass of musketeers, currently 65 musketeers, musketeer HP has come in for Kickass, and he's pushing in. He's going to right click, especially when he sees the age up in queue. The second barracks drop down for Fard, and the veteran musketeers will be coming on very quickly. 7 longbows most present, and don't fight this straight away, Fard. You need to wait until send your first shipments. Poke a little bit, but yes, the veteran upgrade is on its way for Fard, and Kickass, he's on the timer. He knows the upgrade's coming. He knows the shipment's been sent. He needs to try and take this engagement possible. But he's been pathing around the market and barracks. He's been using a single group. He hasn't closed into this distance just yet. Musketeer blocking off the Minutemen, blocking off the musketeers at the town centre. Musketeers of Fard has managed to kite back a bit. Veteran upgrade coming in. These units are near enough up. Fard's units are slightly stronger, but the military population count reduced down to 33, 39. The shipment's coming in just about now. 2 Falconets. This is the timing Fard was waiting for. However, he couldn't defend the shipment point, and as his forward tower's already gone down, so Falconets getting 2 shots each, but taking a handful of military units. Although losing Falconets like that is not fantastic, currently Fard has managed to survive that timing push, has the military unit advantage, has the tech advantage of the veteran musketeers, and if he wants to, he can further boost his musketeers by sending musketeer combat. We'll see what his second card in the Fortress Age will be, but it could be 9 musks or a combat card, or even 8 veils just to say, hey, I've gotten to the third age here, and I'm going to make the most of it. Either follow me up or commit to actually take me down now. Stable has been up for Kickass, and currently units in queue, looking if many hussars in queue. Only 1 hussar coming in. 10 musketeers being trained from the barracks. Just popped now. 6 musketeers shipped from the outpost. Only 1 hussar in queue, and this could be actually. Kickass might need to make a good trade at this. He's trying to surround both sides, but Fard is very wisely retreating from the 2 barracks of the British player of Kickass and the tower, and running back to his base where he's running towards his other military blocking buildings. But Fard has just sipped himself 8 settlers. That is a kind of a greedy shipment. I knew that once he felt comfortable, he could go for it and make it easy. He's got lots of villagers at the back, safely gathering all the resources. However, he needs to defend from this large military population. It's as if Fard's not really training units. He's still on 25 units. 2 hussars popping out, but 2 hussars versus a mass of about 50 musketeers is not what the doctor ordered today. Kickass, in the meantime, is moving out to the top side of the map with his villagers. Moving on to the hunts into the central north and to the very swampy north, where the British do push for a lot of hunts. And it may be unfortunate, he may not have seen that some portion of his previous hunt he was hunting has snuck off into the corner. That's a good 1,500 food there available if needed. Hussar raid coming to the forward gold mine of Kickass, and Kickass also does have a defensive gold mine untouched in base, so these villagers are out on the centre of the map, not necessarily needlessly. 3 hussars, Kickass behind, taking down 1 hussar and 2 hussars. So 2 hussars and 2 villagers, but musketeer mass pushing it on Fard's base. He's seen that the artillery foundry up, so he has to either age up and go for culverins himself, or massive hussars, or just having to really press his numeric advantage now and try and overwhelm and overpower Fard, because if Fard managed to get out a batch of falconets, this would be very disappointing. Fard has the artillery foundry, but has baited Kickass into sieging down the artillery foundry, but he's taking so many shots from behind from his veteran musketeers. These are stronger units. This is what Fard wants, really. Although, yes, that did cost him 300 for the artillery foundry, he took plenty of shots on the musketeers. He must have got himself more than 300 resources worth of value out of this musketeer. Hussars snaring the veteran musketeers of Fard in the base, and the British musketeers of Kickass pushing forwards. Although clone stats with the 2 cards, they need to get on top of the Fard's musketeers if they actually want to trade well. but he is retreating, and he has sent himself cavalry hit points. If he wanted to follow up, he would have wanted to send 700 coin, but going for a batch of 8 musketeers and 3 hussars, he is committing to taking us into the second age. And I wonder what Fard has got remaining in his third age, because he does have a few water shipments. He does have the 8 longbowmen. He does not have the musketeer shipment, but he can send musketeer combats. Yes, he sent the 8 longbows to follow up as card number 2, because he assumed that 5 hussars were not the best units for this heavy musketeer mass here. But these veteran longbows, these longbows are just normal longbow stats. They're not veteran. They don't have the yeoman card on, and 5 hussars come in. So Fard has aged up to age 3, but sent all 3 of his age 3 shipments, and has not left himself much to ship. He's still got the 1,000 coin. If that's from Fard or Fard's gone for the 1,000, got the 1,000 winning deck. Kickass has got the 1,000 coin, but he may want to send a combat card next. Raid coming in from Kickass, raiding with 5 hussars, but they get caught all those hussars from the raid. 2 hussars from Fard are pathing from the top side, snaring the front 2 hussars. So even if the bottom hussar drops off and dies, the first hussar was snared for a time being and could not escape. But managed to only lose 2 hussars there is not too bad for getting caught out of position badly like that. Fard currently has a veteran hussars, and we can see the difference here. Kickass has sent all 4 of his upgrade cards, the musketeers and the hussars, but these stats are less than just the normal regular paid upgrades in the Fortress Age available to British. So these units of Fard are only slightly stronger than Kickass. So with a military population of 82 to 49 from Kickass, I think Kickass is in the driving seat at this moment in time, but if Fard can hold off long enough to get the musketeer combat card in, I think that's when the tables will turn and the fight will go into Fard's favour. Will he survive that long? We'll have to find out. Kickass is pulling back to the centre map, and he has got himself a large mass of hussars now. He's readily training 5 at a time, and he may want to think about going for a second stable. Meanwhile, Fard, and starting to run out of all the hunts behind his base, is starting to transition lots of his villagers onto wood. He's currently got the gang saw upgrade and not yet the log flume. He does have the resources just about to sneak it in if he wanted to, but maybe a bit too greedy. But has built 2 docks and started training fishing boats to compensate. So his next card in may be a water card to defend his investment in water, but I still think musketeer combat for him will be a very good choice, especially as Kickass's army at the moment is musketeer hussar focus. You don't get caught too far out without this upgrade card and your military advantage being so low. Kickass coming in from the top and left hand side of Fard's base. Cavalry separated from the musketeer mass, hoping to get a snare on the musketeers. Musketeers stops turn around to fight. Kickass is still walking towards musketeers. He wants to close that distance down as much as possible. Kickass has more hussars coming through. He's just getting more mass out of Fard. He must have a better economy. There's no point changing the recap. It's still the same, but he's just consistently above the military formation, just taking these great trades. The hussars and Kickass is taking down the hussars of veteran hussars of Fard, and it's just a few musketeers remaining. 70 versus 30. Even have to resort to training pikes. He's already got heavy upgraded musketeers, especially the musketeer combat coming in just now. That's so sad for Fard. He missed the majority of the fight with musketeer combat, so he's essentially he's lost his entire match due to the higher numeric advantage of Kickass when they shared the similar tech in terms of upgrade cards. Fard's still in this though. He has transitioned onto a water economy. He does have 2 docks pumping out units and lots of eco on the side with villagers, but he's starting to lose villagers to left hand side to musgrades, and he needs to do something about it because he can actually. Kickass is staying on top of the barracks inside Fard's base, and he just would not let Fard train any units that have for free. That batch of musketeers just pop out there, have to fight straight away because they've got nowhere to run. They'll get snared by the cavalry, they can't run away, and yes, Fard is tapped out there. That is GG, and Kickass has taken game 1 in this series. So it looks like Kickass is in decent form at the moment. He took the centre of the map while aging Oneville earlier and safely secured it with the outpost of 2 Raxes, and then with while maintaining a continuous numeric military advantage, managed to push into Fard's base after Fard aged up, took down Fard's cannons for a very cost-effective trade actually. At that point the military population was equal, but Kickass just couldn't reinforce the same numbers just the same way as Kickass was able to. Okay, Fard wasn't able to reinforce as the same way as Kickass was able to, and he eventually came in with a larger mass and started to put pressure on the economy of Fard from the left-hand side, and soon to be from the top with this longbowman's walking down to the bottom right of the map. Looking at the military population graph here, you can clearly see that Kickass, with his earlier age up into age 2, just managed to get that musketeer massacre earlier and earlier, especially with the 2 Raxes producing off both. At one point managed to have 40 musketeers to Fard's 25, and when you have a numerical advantage like that, you could just easily sweep your opponent away. Kickass, he should at this point here knew that Fard was possibly aging, the mass was smaller. If he checked his musketeer stats, they did not have the upgrade, so walking into this base with 57 to 35 musketeers, with 57 upgraded musketeers, we could have seen a shorter game at 10 minutes, but Fard aged up, stabilised, and managed to actually stay in the game for 18 minutes, and Fard could have actually won it as well. I think if the 8 settlers were musketeer combat, I think that would have been a better shipment in hindsight for Fard, because although he shipped 8 villagers, all the hunts at the back of his base are starting to run out, so he couldn't squeeze the best use out of the 8 villager shipment as well, especially when he was limited to the barracks of Fard only have 2. He couldn't train any more units as he could because he had no more production facilities. Right, hopping into game number 2 for Fard. And Kickass looks like he's instantly gone for the French. A similar playstyle to the British, and ooh, French versus German. I like this. These guys know what they want to play. They've got their counter picks ready to go, and they're ready for game number 2.
Yes.
Right, Fard's ready. He's ready into this game number 2. Kickass is still just thinking about something before he jumps in and commits to game number 2. He has picked French and has locked it in, so he has committed to the French versus German matchup where Fard can change it if he wanted to, but it looks like his confidence of readying up before Kickass is showing to his opponent that he means business and he wants to come back. Come on, Kickass.
Yes.
He was like this in game 1. Fard was very quick to offer the Brit Mirror, and Kickass was thinking about it for about 5 to 10 minutes, which is okay. If Kickass wants to take some time to think about this upcoming game in a tournament match, which adds a lot of pressure and makes you want to think and trying to play the absolute best as possible. So he's probably planning a strategy, probably thinking what Fard going to do, think about what kind of build is he going to go for, and try and plan it out as best he can before it happens.
Yes. Are you ready?
I was just going to remind Fard that, back in the day it might have been something to do, but these days it's currently frowned upon, so trying to remind him of the rules there. But both these players are major rank, and we're going to go spawn to the second map on Arkansas here. Welcome back, guys. My name's Harrison. We're going to join into game number 2 here between Kickass and Fard. Kickass is spawned on the left-hand side of the map today, playing as the French civilization in the colour teal, with Fard piloting the German civilization on the right-hand side in the colour blue. Having a quick check of the gold mines, we see both players do have 2 mines, one forward and one kind of safe and behind, one central here, and the other mines out in the map are fairly equally balanced, with both players having decent access to food, especially after they've herded a little bit. Kickass are having 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then out, and after that it's just go onto the map. So I'm happy with this map. We're playing with this, and looking like Fard has started by walking to the south side of the map and has come across 90 food treasure. The crate spawn looks like to be just a wood start, and so Fard has just dropped down a house and has decided to not go for the slightly more standard option of an early market where you need to chop some wood, chop some coin. Fard does have the 50 coin available, so he must have come across a 50 beaver treasure? Yeah, if you come across a 50 beaver treasure, you don't have to chop any coin for hunting dogs. So the hunting dogs, the coin use is you don't need it anymore. So you could either mine 125 coin and buy 100 wood for the house, or chop 150 wood and maybe hope for a wood treasure to get your house and hunting dogs there. But Fard has just gone for the early house and is starting to focus on his treasure and can spend more time micro in his explorer, should I say, and pick up some decent treasures. He's reset the Black Bear Guardian to pick himself a stray dog in the centre of the map, and he's saved it with a crack shot. He knew he had that available after taking the first Black Bear with the 90 food with a crack shot. By the time he came for the second bear, the second treasure, the crack shot had recharged. Arkansas has plenty of these high food value treasures guarded by 2 black bears, which are for European explorers very easy to take, and Kickass has just walked past a 70 food treasure. He may want to turn back and get it if he's seen it, but also 40 food for 1 wolf is much easier to take as well. Getting a few pot shots onto Paco the Spanish dog, and Samuel Aubert of French is walking past a 40 food treasure, and that'll be an easy pickup right there. You've got 2 exploring units to take that, and although it's not the highest value, in terms of time spent getting the treasure and the output, 40 food for 1 wolf, that's a steal. The German explorer is still onto the south of the map, moving across, and has come across another beaver treasure of 40 coin. And just imagine if you had that market down. He had 50 coin. He must have picked up another 30 coin to get to 80, and so now ends up with 120 coin, which is only 5 coin away from being able to buy 100 wood, and that could then escalate and able to drop down that trading post in transition a lot quicker. So maybe Fard at a later point, if it was to advance in the series and review these games, may think of dropping an early market as German in the future, because depending on the treasures you can get, it can really help your transition a hell of a lot. Kickass also went for a delayed market in transition, and the same kind of explanations and queries go for to him as I gave it to Fard. French is one of those civilizations where actually you find it slightly more easier to get a market early on in the game. It's maybe easier than Germany as well. But Fard sending lots of his villagers onto wood to specifically chop. He's still got quite a few villagers on food, and he's currently got 250 food. If you're aging up, you don't need food at this point. You need to commit to the wood, and if those villagers were chopping wood, he may be at the 200 wood mark. He's currently getting hunting dogs. He's spending wood on the TP. He could have had this wood. He could have had that TP under construction by now, but due to him not having every villager on wood and getting hunting dogs, he's delayed this TP, and Fard is waiting to get to TP, but he should be under construction by now. He's got the priorities wrong, because each time he's getting a market upgrade, he's not putting down the TP. He puts down the TP first, then after that first 50 wood, you can get hunting dogs, and after the 75 wood, you can get placer mines, one after the other. But by the time you keep on taking those upgrades, it's just delaying your time to get a TP, and at this point, both players are into the second age with no TP. Maybe Fard's just here to try to sway the French explorer from getting TP. Maybe this is all part of the plan. He has stopped at 100 wood. He still needs another 25 if he wanted to get steel traps as well, which then preserves having 400 wood, which could be stable and 2 houses. Yeah, so you go, stable just on the forward gold mine, then onto the side, protecting any raids coming from the very central route into the coin mine, and houses to the top side, protecting this coin mine as well. Very important to protect any exposed gold mines. Pardon me there, it's time to cough. Now, Fard he's still in the base, and he's having a little bit of a scout around, and has seen, I believe, in-base barracks, and it's pretty standard to have an in-base barracks versus German player. You can either go for pikes or musketeers. I think a 10 musk is going to be the what the doctor ordered today. If you look at units in queue, is he going for any more musketeers? Yes, he's still got another single musketeer in queue, which he can complete batch at a later point. And 10 musketeers will give him enough hand attack to defend from enough units to cover the space, as well as enough hand attack to fend off any early Ulan pressure of the German player. Standard opening shipments from both players. 3 settler wagons for the German player. Currently got all his German villagers onto the forward coin mine, all gathering gold, and sending his 6 Ulans out for a raid, but he's pulled them back, and I don't know what they're pulling back for actually, because if he's seen that there's no stable on the field, then the Ulans have got free raids just to even, they don't have to fully commit into the raid underneath the town centre, they can just go nearby and check where, if a village is exposed, if you can pick out a lone batch of 5 musketeers, but with no trading post for either player, their next shipment's going to take a while, and 700 wood from Kickass, if he was wanting to do some sort of fortress agenda, maybe the 700 coin would be better, because by the time the next shipment is received for the French player, that would take a long time for the coin to get gathered up and age up, so it'd be interesting to see where the Kickass and Fard both do not have a trading post is kind of signalling that either one or the both are thinking of a colonial age agenda, but Fard, he wants to be in the fortress age, and I'm waiting to see who his next shipment is. He's mined a lot of coin already, 1200 from the forward coin mines, so the 700 coin will give him enough coin to age up, and when he needs to then transition all his villagers onto food. The Hussar raid coming from the top, 5 from the top, 6 from the bottom, splitting off the villagers both sides. However, Kickass's musketeers on top of his entire eco here prevents the German player actually wanting to push his flimsy cavalry into this potentially death zone. You got all his musketeers around potentially snaring, training point of barracks, a stable down with units in queue. Not just yet, but the German player may have thought the Hussar was in queue. Minutemen could have popped out as well, and yes, there you go. Currently, Fard has pulled back, and both players are just taking it at a slightly steadier pace at this point. They're not necessarily jumping into the fortress age. Fard does have a Doppelsonder in queue, but that could be just there as a defensive measure. So if he's got the option to complete the batch if he wants to, or he can just remove the Doppelsonder from queue and age up behind us. But having a 3 settler wagon, 700 wood age up is quite slow from both players, and he's going for it. He's trained another 5. He's completing the batch of Doppelsonders, and I'm unsure if the shipment is on its way for for Fard or not, because he's only sent his two shipments in H2. Musketeer mass and Hussars pushing out from Kickass, and if the Hussars gets onto the Uhlans, this could be bad news. 5 Doppelsonders are very strong units, but versus a large mass of musketeers, they'll just get picked off. Focus fire down by one, and Fard is not aging up. He's still got 500 food in the bank, 400 coin available in reserve, which is good enough for a batch of getting some Doppelsonders started and Minutemen, but that is not enough to age up. And when you got all these musketeers with quite a lot of siege damage, and as a collective group, a lot of potential, this could be risky to age up. So Fard might need to cancel his shipment and send 8 expos to defend, especially with all his musketeer mass. Fard has sent his rally point forward of the town centre, but has not used the economic only and military only rally points that the TC has. He could have had an economic rally point behind onto the mine or up to the north for the hunts, and right click for his military elsewhere. However, yeah, 8 expos have been just shipped. Ulan snaring the Hussars, but one Hussar being a hero is blocking off all these Hussars from getting onto the mass. Musketeers getting around, Doppelsonders cutting off from behind. This is very good play from Fard, great positioning. The snare musketeers are having to fight off the Doppelsonders to break free, however, getting picked off behind from all the crossbows. These 4 Doppelsonders were out of the way, out of the fight, start off with to bait them in, and then the Doppelsonders reinforcing just came in to cut them off, and that is a very strong fight from Fard to take. And with 700 coin being used as to spam units of the Hussars and the Musketeers, Kickass doesn't have the coin to age up at this point. They're both in the second age, nobody's aging, they're both still second age, and Fard's military advantage. He knows he's just cleaned the French player up. The French player will still have some residual units around, but he's deciding to push out with advantage, which push out with Doppelsonders could get pinned down by the Minutemen, retreating Musketeers. It may be safer for Fard just to age behind this and get the skirmishers, war wagons, Uhlans. Oh no, he's spending a lot of his Uhlans meeting down his Musketeers, but Musketeers are walking away, they're not actually fighting. That's given enough time for Doppelsonders to close in and take it as well. Minutemen popping from behind. No Hussars out for Kickass, so the crossbowmen are free to move around, they're not being shot and focused down. There's no villagers in the TC as well, and 600 wood on the floor, that's not actually helping the ship just yet, but like I said, Fard's just walked in with Doppelsonders against Musketeers Minutemen. No upgrades, not in the focus station. You could have used that time and all that military presence to fend off any raids from Kickass and a secondary military push, and he's just sent 2 settler wagons behind this. So Fard's playing this as in a colonial agenda, but he went from leading that H2 war to actually probably being behind at the moment. So Fard's going to need to play a little bit of catch up. He has sent 2 settler wagons to increase his economic potential even further, but only having place mines and hunting dogs with no steel traps means that trying to get the 1200 food needed for age up without sending 700 food is going to be a bit of a challenge for Fard. Does he even have 700 food in deck? He does not have the 700 food in deck, so if he wants to age up, he needs to actually hunt and gather all 1200 food himself. That's interesting. Fard's gone for the long range hit points in age 4 instead of 6 settler wagons, 10 guard hussars or 13 guard hussars, whichever one it is. The 2 heavy cannons, Lipsnazda cavalry upgrade, which is 25% for the Uhlans. I disagree with this card quite a bit at this point, and so that may be something for Fard to think about for another matchup, especially if you're playing late versus French. You may want to transition from, instead of just going Skirm Goon, but Skirm Goon Gendarme for an age 4 heavy cavalry unit. Fard is still running around, pulling out the musketeer mass of Kickass into the open of the battlefield. This would be a great place for Fard to engage, so that Kickass is away from his town centre and any reinforcements. But with second age Uhlans, you can't do much, and with the 5 Doppelsonders being retrained, I don't think Fard's picked the right strategy here. He's got quite a few villagers on the berries, and yes, he is providing cover for his economy to gather outside his base, but he's nowhere near aging, and sent in 3 Doppelsonders as well. He sent 3 Doppels instead of 700 coin, and it's not like he needs urgent reinforcements. He has a stable and a Doppelsonder. The 700 coin can get a batch of 5 from both, so the 3 Doppelsonders is, I'm not going to say incorrect, but it's certainly interesting, especially his position on the map. Maybe Fard has realised that if he actually starts to age up now, that he's most likely going to get right-clicked as soon as he ages up, so he may think he has to actually fight this now. But Musketeers is a very good unit to have against swordsmen. Even thinking about it logically, one's got a gun and one's just got a sword he has to walk towards. One's got a range, and with all these units in this range, the Doppelsonders can only connect on the outside of the Musketeers. It's not like they can kind of power through, walk into the centre and take swing shots of everything. And yeah, Fard's forward racks has gone down. He's still got one at the back for him to mass up, but he's going purely Doppel Ulan, which is just countered by pure Musk. It's not like he's trained 20 Expos to try and contest the Musketeers and decide. He's going full colonial strats with a possibly anti-German or counter-cavalry composition. When I say anti-German, this is more of a standard build in a German mirror when there's lots of Uhlans present, but Germany doesn't have Musketeers, and this is a very large infantry mass to have. And Fard he's walking towards this mass. I don't like this, Fard. Go back. You're gonna lose units for free. This is, take a shot, Kickass. You need to take a shot where you can. The Doppelsonders were pulled back to the safety of the town from Fard's superior military control there, but having 16 Doppelsonders without even having any infantry upgrade cards. See, at the start of the game, you might not think you're going to go pure Doppelsonders, but if you're training 18 Doppelsonders, you need to have the infantry attack, infantry HP. These mainly infantry HP due to how much HP these guys have. But yeah, these guys have to walk towards the top group, but this guy's in the back taking shots, and the Doppelsol's just fallen over, and Fard's just resigned. And although Fard's giving Kickass the well played, I think this is actually a strategical error from Fard's point of view instead of a very well solidly played game from Kickass. However, Kickass did do the best he did out of this situation. He noticed an opportunity to get a strong win over the German player. He saw the Germans going for the Doppelsolders and thought, if I actually mass the Musketeers and continue an H2 play and force the German to also stay H2, he felt confident that he could win in the long run, especially when he had sent 700 food to help mass his next, Hussar batch, his Musketeer batch. So I think Fard, he had opportunities to drop a trading post. He had opportunities to get steel traps at some points. He had opportunities to send 700 coin and age up. He had opportunities to, even after cleaning up Kickass near this base with a really good fight, he walked to Kickass's base with just slow-moving heavy infantry, which could get kited today to the Musketeers, Minutemen, 8 Expo shipment if it was needed. It wasn't even needed in the end, and then just essentially just couldn't do anything with his hand infantry. Look, they're only taking on a few Musketeers at a time, but all these guys just stood here, reloading their weapons, waiting to take another shot on the German infantry. Quick 15-minute game there, and currently Kickass is up 2-0. I need to remember to do the score all the time. Go on, Alison, you can do that. You can do that. Come on, chat, remind me to do the score each time, even though there's a delay and I actually haven't got the chat open. Look at the post game as well. If you looked at the villager count or villager population, because we can see the German satellite wagons, we can see that although it was quite a clean game from both players, not losing too many villagers, there was a bit of idle time for Kickass. That was probably the time where the German player was in the French player's base, because I know that afterwards he did, after the fight, the German player did send 2 settler wagons to kind of reaffirm his economy after losing his army. But if you look into the military population at that same point, yeah, that was the point where Kickass lost his army at German's base, so he needs to heavily reinvest into the military to get some presence. But when Fard walked back in, he thought he had a good trade. When Fard walked back into Kickass's base, it was just a disaster, losing 48 military population down to 4, and not really trained too much. Obviously, a few units trained here, but afterwards, it just staying H2 was a death sentence. Right, we're going to move into Game 3, ESOC Colorado, of a best of 5 at this point. Go on, join. Hopefully ESOC's still up. Yep. It says I'm in the game, but I'm not in the game. Let's try and join another person's game. That's okay, refresh. Yes, go on, join in. Yes, I'm back in. And Kickass has instantly selected Dutch for Colorado. He's putting out the civs left to right and centre at this point. We're just waiting in the lobby for game number 3. Kickass has selected the Dutch civilization at the moment, but Fard is still sat on Germans from his last time, and from his olden days playing, Fard may want to consider actually taking the German into the Dutch offer. We saw that the last casted series on ESOC TV between literally was just an hour ago. But the final match, okay, it was Alligator versus Victor Sui, and in the final game of that series, Victor Sui picked the Dutch into the Germans, or the Alligator picked Germans, and then Victor Sui picked Dutch as a counter build, and went for a skirmisher halberdier play, making most of the halberdier buff in the recent ESOC patch, as well as trying to make the halberdiers work with the speed upgrade military reforms card for the Dutch in Age 3. Unfortunately though for the Dutch player in that match, it didn't end well, and essentially we saw lots of dead halberdiers for not a lot of trade. So it'll be interesting to see in this game whether they're going to take the same matchup as the previous series of a Dutch German. Fard's confused, yeah. Kickass picks first. Oh yeah. Just waiting for Kickass to actually confirm his Dutch pick. He's been sassing it for a while, but technically until you actually confirm it, it's not confirmed. Currently still waiting for Kickass to click in his Dutch. He hasn't said to either player that he's actually going to play as Dutch, and Fard is waiting to choose his Civ after Kickass's confirmation. So I'm going to have to let Kickass know again that we saw in the previous series for this map on Colorado, it was a French versus Russia matchup with the Russian player eventually coming out on top in terms of taking good trades in colonial age and eventually overwhelming the French army of Victor Sui, who went for a very unusual dual stable strategy. So if funky strategies is your thing, then I highly recommend watching the last series of watching Victor Sui against Alligator. Unfortunate for Victor Sui, his dream idea of overwhelming the early mass of the Russia as French did not go so well, and eventually lost that game to Alligator in the series 3-1. Looks like Fard's picking French into Dutch here, so we're going to hop into game number 3 in this best of 5 between Fard and Kickass. Kickass is currently leading the series 2-0, and so this is match point for Kickass if he can win this matchup. This is a matchup I've struggled as a Dutch multiple times. It seems like in this matchup the French player is always going to send those 5 hussars into your base where you're trying to spend that early food you've gathered up into banks and further economy. So you have to try and manage your economic progression as you normally would, while trying to not get too idle, not to lose too many villagers, maybe get 5 pikes from a barracks, or drop a barrack stable on your own side after the 700 wood. It'll be interesting to see if Kickass is going to drop a military production unit on the 400 wood age up, or after shipping 700 wood himself.
Are you ready?
I hope Kickass doesn't do this for every game he plays. This is his tournament journey may spend like 2 hours in the lobby if that's the case. Just looking at the chat on my phone, it looks like Maito is cheering for Fard at the moment. It's going to say Fard is warmed up, boys. He will win, and I think Fard has shown some great control, decent macro skills. I think his strategy may be a little bit off. He hasn't possibly been following up the meta as much as modern day players like Kickass, and so I think if Fard was to review quite a lot of the tournament matches being played currently as well against his own, he may pick up a few new tricks to be able to use at a later point. Unfortunately, because it's around a 32, it may be a case that if he actually drops out at this point, it may be that Fard will be eliminated from the tournament, and from an old player of Fard who's been around since the PK4 days and even before. I was chatting to Fard before the match started. He was saying like, "Oh, big me up, I've pro player back in the day."
Are you ready?
I was joking him a little bit. He has been playing since
yes.
Been playing since 2009 apparently. So when I was playing the game back in school just messing around, you know, the AIs and just having a bit of fun. Look, that's the point where Fard started to play online. So Fard is a seasoned pro, and he was also here for ESOC's first tournament on Spring 15. So Fard is a very experienced match player. However, needs to get back into the meta very quickly if he wants to come back and come back for a comeback sweep, because Kickass is currently 2-0 up. Welcome back, guys. My name's Harrison. We're going to jump into game number 3 here between Kickass and Fard. Kickass is spawned on the left-hand side, playing as the Dutch civilization in the colour teal, with his opponent Fard playing as a counter pick here. He picked the French civilization. He's in the blue colour, spawned on the right-hand side, but he's picked the French to counter the Dutch pick of Kickass, considering that Kickass won the last game and had to pick his civilization first. This was a 200 wood start, so looks like Fard is going to be dropping an age 1 trading post and not going for a house market and early hunting dogs with a very easy time to get that market teching, which was one of the build orders back in the day when Sony Sam Wise was playing. There's a famous replay on YouTube, or just YouTube's picked up many algorithm views of a very well played French semi-FF into China on Arcania, but it's a 200 wood start, and Sam Wise went for the early market instead of the TP on that long TP route there. So you can see that even for Fard, he's learning new tricks now. He's gone for the early trading post instead of the market, and that will provide him experience, a boost in experience throughout the match, and hopefully will fuel his shipments in middle to late age 2, and especially once it gets to the 3rd age, if he is going to go for a fast forward agenda. The Dutch Explorer, on the other hand, bottom left of the map, picking up a Cougar pet guardian, which has that times 3 multiplier, but he did reset that Cougar. He needs to, crack shot 1, take a few shots in the other, and a 43 HP guardian now in combat with Explorer. He won't lose too much HP from this, and he'll pick up a very strong treasure guardian to help him with his age 1 treasure benefits. One of the most important things for the Dutch civilization is that the Dutch, because they in transition have to build that bank, he's left his wood on the floor to save it for when he wants to build that bank in transition. The Dutch, they really do enjoy any treasure they can get if it's a resource crate. So they need food for the bank, they need wood for the bank, they also need coin for that first settler after you build the bank. Because once you built the bank, it won't have enough time to mine to generate the coin needed to train that first settler in queue. So to get a really smooth transition, you want to focus as well as you can on treasures, and the Native Scout is a good treasure, especially with your times. You got a times 3 pet, and you're kiting away like you're scared from a single Cougar. I understand trying to preserve HP on the Dutch Explorer, but you don't need the Dutch Explorer this much in this matchup. You do have an Envoy scouting around. You've got your Cougar available. This is a high damage dealing treasure guardian, which you can use against other treasures, so might need to be not as afraid in the future and try and increase the speed you take to take the treasures, because otherwise the French players are going to take all of the 90 coin. That would be great for Kickass to secure his first settler on the age up to age 2, but that's going to the French, and he's a little bit away from all the other treasures on the map. There's a 90 food guarded by 3 wolves. I think that's where the Dutch Explorer is starting to head across here. He's clicked to nearby, so he wants to move to the south side of this treasure, so see if he can spot any French Explorer nearby who may be able to steal the treasure. So he's gone to play for cautious side first. He's waiting for his crack shots to recharge. I guess with 3 wolves, that makes sense to do that instead of just go to charge straight in. But once you've taken one wolf out, the Cougar should really help in cleaning up the other wolves very quickly. Native Scout going to run headlong into the French Explorer. At least Kickass has scouted where the French Explorer is, and so he's decided to not commit to that treasure just yet. Back in base though, he's still chopping wood, and he's only just got to the 350 mark, which the Dutch need for their first Explorer. And he's sent a lot of these vills onto coin. Where you only need the vills on coin to get your first settler, but in queue, and once you got that bank built, you would only need 3 settlers remaining on the bank, on the mine, to maintain villager production after the bank's built. Building the bank with 3 settlers, for some mathematical reason, possibly not the most efficient way to build a bank. 4 is preferred, and I think 3 is the worst out of 1, 2, or 4 or 3. So something to maybe check on the ESOC strategy guides and pages online to see if there's a better way of doing it. But in the meantime, Kickass is still around the 90 food treasures. It's taken a bit of a while to get this, but once he has taken the food treasure, he can use that to further fund bank production, especially once you've gathered up the wood crates. Yes, he's got the food and wood available now to drop down another bank where we wanted to, and he's put it very, very defensive close to his town centre. He hasn't got much of a wall coming up the section, wall in front of his base at the moment, but that could change on the shipment of 700 wood, which just comes in now. Fard is in the second age, and his villagers already have the hunting dogs, placer mines. He has the wood available for steel traps, but he's decided to save some of that coin to try and get a decent batch of hussars first off. But no, he has just got the steel traps in queue. Looking by units in queue, let's see how many hussars he's going to get on his first batch. He's got 3 in queue, possibly going to get 4, and looks like he's got a 4th. But I'm worried that there's going to be a 4 hussar pop instead of 5, and the difference between 4 and 5 is actually a staggering amount. Waypoint set, 4 hussars being trained initially from Fard, and Kickass has gone for the multiple banks here. See, on 700 wood, he's dropped the stable, the house, the market. He still can afford a bank if he buys 1 batch of wood, which I would expect him to do with that for the time being, unless he sees the hussars and can't get it down. Bank wagon comes in, so that'll be his 3rd bank, and he has availability to build a 4th, and he's going to commit to getting a batch of hussars out to defend this. 1 villager away from the town centre, and that's going to be picked up very quickly by the 4 hussars. Now that Kickass is aware that the hussars are on the field, he may wish to get the greatcoat upgrade. He does have the market down, and if that protects 1 villager's life, then it's already paid off. You gotta be careful though, Farge. You're just behind the Dutch base, and the hussar pops just come out on top of the French player's hussars, and Kickass is pathing his hussars, and they will have to run down the entire edge of the map and maybe get cut off by these hussars. Yes, the snare's just incoming. 2 hussars snared off. Only the first back is snared off. 3 hussars come around the front to try and cut off the remaining hussars and fully trap them. More hussars reinforcing from the bomb, but only a batch of 3. This should be a second batch of 5. This is important. Like, if this is another batch of 5, Fard could try and bait these hussars a little bit longer and then clean up as a result. But the fact that he went out with only 4 hussars to start off with instead of 5 meant he was never going to win a 5v5. It didn't look like Kickass put that many villagers into the town centre to try and actually defend the raid, so the hussars or the French player didn't take too much damage. But in this case, if you look at the units lost, it's not going to look pretty. It's going to be 4 hussars for Fard and only 1 villager for Kickass, and if most of your economy is banks really, or bank production, you get the hunting dogs now, and yeah, so it looks like even after checking onto the recalculated population as well, with only 3 banks on the field, it still has a large eco than the French player, 34 to 28. The French player does have steel traps and placer mines though, so although he does have more villagers, they do gather. And Kickass has caught another batch of 5 hussars out in the field from Fard. This is a disaster from the French player. You've got 3 other hussars on the other side of the map doing absolutely nothing. 8 pikemen crossing the field. Kickass knows that Fard is only just going for pure hussars, and so he sent 8 pikes to either take down buildings or take down cavalry. He don't mind. He will make the most of it. French explorers snaring the cavalry, and Kickass should be taking these hussars on. Like, he should be taking these hussars out for the best trade possible. Like, yeah, he's got all hussars attacking up. Yeah, those 2 hussars dropped so fast, and those 2 hussars only managed to get like another 2 or 3 swings onto it. And once the sable falls down, the only thing Fard can really do is go for a Minutemen pop, and yes, he does have a waypoint set, but he's set him over the pikemen, so if he wants to get out of raid, he needs to go to the bottom to try and protect them. But Minutemen pop, is there a Hoss patch coming in queue? Units in queue. Fard has no units in queue, not even a settler, and he's going for a second stables and worried because this first one's going to go down, but with no other resources available, no settlers in queue and no prospect of doing anything else. He uses Minutemen to try and delay and take out a few of the hussars, but there is very little follow-up here from Fard. Oh, Fard's aging! Fard's in the 3rd age. Missed that. That stable will be his only ticket out. Goon production. He has no coin available to actually make any goon units. So Fard will have to send sort of military shipment to try and defend this, and the only shipment which makes sense at this point is 5 Dragoons, because you know that there's cavalry on the field, pikemen which can be kited from by the pikemen, but also potential for more hussars to be trained. As you can see over here, Kickass has still got another 4 hussars in reserve, and is safely hunting out into the centre of the map, and this has been really well played from Kickass. He has the initiative, and when he saw the age up, he could have stayed around and taken out a few of the houses, because there's not a lot of military presence available, and could have traded off some of his units for Fard's very inferior economy, and if as well stagnated economy. Like, he had no coin income. He sent 700 wood, but he lost both of his stables he put down, so he's had to try and invest a lot, and his 2 trading posts is his only ticket way back into the match, and to fund his shipments like 1,000 wood, 1,000 coin, 8 skirm, 3 cuirassiers, cav combat, 5 Dragoons on the field. But Kickass is aging up, and is he aging up slow? What is it? Text being researched. But in the meantime, Hussars snaring the Dragoons, even Explorers snaring on the Dragoons. You don't be snared by infantry. That means that the control has not been great there. Text being researched. And yes, Dutch is agent with Exiled Prince, and with 2 stables on the field, Kickass is going to go into double Reuter production. And the nice thing about Reuters as well is that you do have the mobility, so if something does go wrong, like you walk into 8 skirms, you can either decide to commit to the fight or run away. Something the skirms don't have that luxury of doing. The Dutch Explorer does see that there are 8 Dragoons on the field, as well as the 8 skirmisher shipments sent, and so this is a timing push from the Fard where he needs to do something, because he's been so damaged early on with his transition, but he needs to do something. 2 Hussar raid coming from Kickass on the south side. There was no scout this side. He couldn't see any Hussars coming apart from the trading post, but slow to react. 2 villagers going down, and possibly even more. 1 villager's really far from the town centre, pushing in with the Dragoons onto the forward hunt as well. So action both sides of the map, trying to follow all of it. Skirmishers taking pot shots on the Reuters, and the first shipment of the Dutch player should be in very soon. He just looks like he's just sent it now, so he's on the way. But in terms of units being produced, he's going for the dual Reuters. He's got 6 Reuters in queue, and Fard has started to retreat. He's worried of any more cav raids coming. He's got 1 Hussar still alive and onto the CDB, and these CDBs do not have greatcoats on. You've got a market tech. You've got a market. These greatcoats only cost 75 wood, and you've... Okay, that CDB survived, but the other 2 didn't, and when he had to fight and defend his stable here, he must have lost a few others as well, so lots of units lost. Fard, yeah, he's lost 3 CDB, and that is 375 worth of resources as well as the lost economic potential of all the resources that settler could be gathering in that meantime. But without that greatcoats, they could have survived. Having said that, Kickass now does have his greatcoat, so maybe he got the greatcoats after that initial Hussar raid when he got caught down here, and only losing 6. Okay, 6 is not ideal, but you do have your banks to support you. Fard currently sat on 1,000 coin. He gathered up the 1,000 coin at home. However, he's not necessarily spending it at the moment too much, and maybe he's waiting for a mercenary shipment. He's got the 10 Jaegers in deck, and so if he's got the shipment ready and the 1,000 coin and gone. Yes, 10 Jaegers on the way, but 10 Jaegers is still a really good shipment. It's a shipment which is not used enough. It's a shipment, I think, if you're a German player, you kind of familiarise yourself with the mercenaries, how strong the mercenaries can be. But if you're the French player, like, they still have access to the Black Riders and Jaegers, and possibly not the Black Riders because you have Dragoons, very good units as well. Black Riders having range resist, Dragoons having... No, Black Riders having melee resist, Dragoons having range resist. But in terms of the skirmishers, the Jaegers are very, very strong, and if I was going to send 10 Jaegers, even this mass, although the Hussars will do well, the Reuters will struggle actually, and quite a few will get picked off before they trade off with the Jaegers of the French player. But Fard currently massing Dragoons to complement his skirmisher counts here. He's got another 2 Dragoons in queue, still got quite a lot of food to be used. He might need to send more on coin. He does have a lot of coin miners on this side, and he may want to think about sending another 2 or 3 at the top and try and push out once he has another batch of Dragoons, because otherwise, okay, he's going to move. He's going to path this way to the south side of the cliff. This is where he's going to defend his eco, and if that's the case, he might want to move quite a few of these villagers in the base, in the safety, down to the south. And having 6 villas chopping wood is all good, but you don't have gangster as well, and that's at that point that's 0.6 of a CDV, which is near enough, close enough to a single vill. It's not quite enough, but it's sizable enough that over time it does add up and it does matter. Dragoons moving in, taking pot shots onto the Raiders, pikemen, SARS. Moving back before getting snared, Bulldog taken down, and his overstay is working. He's moving back, keep fighting back, ready for the pikemen. Let the skirmishers do the work and take on the heavy infantry. You do not want to get snared by the pikemen for your Dragoons. It doesn't matter if your skirmishers get in front then, because the Dragoons can target down the SARS, and yeah, Jaegers can still do very well with the Raiders. But look at this massive Raiders, double Raiders production as well as the 9 Raiders and the Cav combat. These are very strong units, cost efficient, pop effective, and they're on top of the Dragoons and Jaegers. Young Jaegers having to resort to fighting with his actual weapon as a club, but a club is not as good as a shot in AoE3. So these Jaegers are starting to go down, but look how they still stand. They do so much damage to tank so much. We look at military units remaining, 7 Jaegers. We talk about Germans shipping 12 when it's overpowered, so still shipping 10 and having 7 remaining after all. Wow, that's quite impressive. Look at the HP. Those Jaegers are still at full HP essentially, and that's provided cover for the other skirmishers to stay alive as well. So those Jaegers are very, very good, and has brought the French player right back into this matchup. He's now going for a speculative raid on the top side of the map. He knows that he's moving to the bottom side. He's expecting the Dutch player to kind of counter his movements, but on his version side of the map. So you can see all these settlers moving to the top onto the coin mine, but a few of these settlers are moving out of the safety of their own town centre and getting picked up by the Dragoons. And the Dutch player is moving in with his Raiders to try and catch the Dragoons, but he may want to think about actually letting the Dragoons have it and actually not engaging, because the Raiders are outmassed here, and the French player will trade very well, because even now he's got the cavalry combat in as well. This is just turned into a goon war from both sides, and Kickass has gone for a Hussar switch. No barracks to explore, no skirmisher shipment, no skirmisher train, and for a Dragoon combination there's not much going on. Large mass of veteran Hussars with the cavalry combat has put itself straight onto the skirmishers, and it's Fard's job to protect the skirmishers with the Dragoons, but once the skirmishers are gone, it's just Dragoons versus Hussars snaring and even more Raiders, and I think this is a very good cav switch from Kickass actually. Some of these skirmishers are still running away, and you need to catch these, so you need to put a snare on. Yes, one Hussar's running out first. He wants to be the first one to snare these Hessian Jaegers down. They're trying to run away to the trees as cover, but once he wants to snare it, the Raiders can catch up from behind and taking pot shots and focusing down skirmishers one at a time. Dragoons trying their best to body block and beat off the cavalry while they can, but there's only skirmishers on the field, 10 skirmishers and 2 Jaegers. The 2 Jaegers have fought a good fight, but they've gone as far as they can, and only a reinforced batch of 3 Dragoons. It's not even a 5 batch, but a 3 Dragoon batch may not be enough to defend the skirmishers from the cavalry combat and veteran Hussar of the Dutch player and the Raiders providing cover fire from behind. Settlers moving out into the next coin mine at the back, as well as free access to hunts in the middle. The French explorer's got a decent scout, but he's not scouting out the Dutch explorers' villages are here. All these villages at the bottom are really exposed. There's no tower down here. There's the scout providing some line of sight, but there's no house in this choke or over down here to try and catch a raid. And there's a cavalry mass just sweeping itself around on the bottom side, which could smash into the French economy from this angle, from bottom left to top right of the screen. And Fard may be looking, if he's monitoring the enemy, maybe looking at this tree section to see if they come this way, but he won't be expecting them to come this way. Once they come in, then yes, he's got 2. He's thrown an emergency tower down, nearly built there, but a few of these Hussars are going to get a nice pick up. 2 villagers going down there before the tower comes up, and Raiders can just again trade with the Dragoons, because in this case they can trade because you've got the banks working from the banks from the source of coin, but as soon as Fard runs out of coin, he'll have to go to another coin mine. Well, this coin mine's currently under attack and can't be gathered from. Large stream of units. Look at this. Just look at this long line of units joining the fight. We have 7 skirmishers and about 8 Hussars joining the fight, and the Raiders have traded off with the Dragoons. Fard realises he can't transition out with the even more Dragoons and skirmishers, and after shipping 1,000 wood, there was little follow-up for Fard to come back in. He just didn't have the food or coin to remass his Dragoons and skirmishers, and just taps out GG. And this is a quick 3-0 victory for Kickass, and that just shows that being well practiced, having many hours under your belt recently, as well as following the meta more closely, shall I say, has led Kickass to deliver a very decisive 3-0 victory over Fard, who back in the day, I believe he did get to the rank of Brigadier, and although the actual how skillful Brigadiers are does vary in time to time depending who's around in the circuit, Fard is a very, very good player, and he's just come back into the scene. This is his first tournament outing back in a while, and he may not be best prepared for this matchup, but rest assured, I'm sure Fard will come back in for another tournament at a later point, strong and ready for revenge. And I wouldn't be surprised if Fard's going to take this and thinking, right, I've just been shown up by Kickass. I need to work hard and come back, and we'll have another high-level player ready in the community for future tournaments. But for the meantime, Kickass has won the series 3-0 against Fard. Looking at the timeline, specifically, while we're here, the villager count, you can kind of see that one villager was dropped for the Dutch player as the cavalry was passing into the Dutch's base and retreating, but once Fard aged up, was under significant pressure from the Dutch cavalry and lost a few settlers there, but more importantly was being idled and just couldn't get much of that eco staying continuously churning through for this period of time. But if you look at the military population, all these are hussars, and the hussars just keep getting made and just falling off and made and fallen, and just they didn't get enough value. They didn't get the value they needed to get after that investment. It's not like, oh, I've invested this many resources, and if they get something great, if they don't, it's okay. I've got these hussars. By training so many hussars in the colonial age and delaying your age up for so long, they needed to get some sort of return for their investment, and actually, they really didn't. They got caught out twice, and in 2 occasions lost hussars without Kickass losing a single hussar himself. Kickass then moved into the French base with, damaged hussars, which did get picked off, but hussars dropped, no other units were trained, villagers dropped, idle time, and Kickass aged up, and he just couldn't train a single unit because he had no stable, no resources, and had to ship 5 goons, and Kickass could have stayed there a little bit longer and taken out a few of the houses just to add extra insult to injury. But once Kickass returned to his own base and massed his Reuters, he knew he had the advantage economically, and just once he took a few decent fights, the Jaegers in this fight did a very great job, and so this is a sign for other players that the Jaeger shipment for French, do not discount it. It still does a job. It still can be used in the meta of Skirm Goon to really swing a fight in your advantage. So Kickass did well to come back from this point and managed to clean up this fight very well with a very strong 20 hussar switch, or 15 hussars probably. Put the hussars onto the skirmishers and Jaegers. There was not enough dragoons to protect or body lock and protect the skirmishers. The skirmishers went down, and then the Reuters focused onto the dragoons. The hussars snared both the dragoons and the skirmishers. They couldn't get away, and they went down. And yeah, that is the end of game 3. And